Welcome to Stuff They Didn't Teach Me in Sunday School. Years ago, I taught junior high kids. And if I ever wanted to get them to read the Bible, all I really had to do was tell them that Judges was an R-rated book. I was pretty sure they went home, found a Bible, and sat down with Judges right away. Judges is R-rated because it's violent, it's gory, and it's very, very descriptive. It's a dark period in Israel's history. Judges describes a time when the leadership in Israel's history was weak, non-existent, or sporadic. There's a pattern to the book of Judges. The pattern is fairly easy to follow. It is a pattern that, first of all, Israel is faithful to God, to Yahweh, but then Israel begins to wander. Israel does what God tells her not to do. If you look at Judges chapter 2, verse 11, you'll find that pattern. And the people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh and served the Baals. They served the gods of those around them, those that they should have gotten rid of in the first place. And they forsook Yahweh, the God of their fathers, who'd brought them out of the land of Egypt. They forsook Yahweh, verse 13, and served the Baals and the Ashtaroth. And then God would raise up, we're told in Judges chapter 2, God would raise up an enemy, an oppressor who would come in and just make life miserable for Israel. And Israel would then cry out to Yahweh and say, deliver us from this oppressor. And Yahweh, in verse 16, Yahweh raised up judges who saved them out of the power of those who plundered them. And then the cycle starts over. And yet they did not listen to their judges, for they played the harlot after other gods. So it's this circle of events in the book of Judges. Israel follows foreign gods, pagan gods. God brings an oppressor in. The people cry out for help. God sends a judge or a deliverer to deliver them. They're delivered, and the people go back and worship the Baals again. And it just happens over and over. The first judge in the book of Judges is a guy by the name of Ehud. He hardly ever makes the Sunday school lessons. He's actually the second judge, but the first one that has a story written about him. And Ehud is left-handed. Now that's only important because a left-handed warrior was kind of unique and valued. Everybody was trained to look for the weapon coming from the right hand, so you didn't expect to see it coming from the left hand. The oppressor at this point in Israel's history is Moab, a nation to the east of Israel, now oppressing the nation. And Ehud goes to pay the tribute to Eglon. Eglon's the king of Moab. He's a big fat man. And Ehud is going to go pay him the money that keeps Eglon from attacking the people. It's a protection racket, basically an international protection racket. So he shows up at Eglon's palace, goes upstairs to what's called the cool roof chamber, which we now think is the bathroom. The plumbing was gravity. And so the upstairs cool chamber, the gravity would take it downstairs to a lower collection area from which the human waste would be carried away. And Ehud meets Eglon with the tribute money in that cool roof chamber, and Eglon presumably reaches out his right hand to greet him and his left hand with the sword and stabs Eglon in the belly. And we are told in some graphic detail that the fat of Eglon closed over the hilt of the sword and the dirt came out, or the entrails came out. It appears that Ehud then escaped through the hole in the toilet upstairs and got out of the palace that way. His Eglon's men, his servants, the king's servants, get suspicious when Eglon doesn't come out of there. Ehud doesn't come out of there. And they're wondering what's going on. He's spent an awful lot of time in the bathroom. And finally they go in and they find their king dead. And Moab retreats and lets Israel alone. That's one example of a story in the book of Judges where God uses, in this case, Ehud, the judge, E-H-U-D, to deliver Israel from an oppressor. What you'll find in the book of Judges is each of these judges in some way is kind of a type of Christ. Someone who steps into history and delivers God's people from the oppression from outside. In this case, the oppressor was Moab. In your case, in my case, our oppression is sin, death, and the devil. And God steps into our history in Jesus Christ and delivers us.